tempted to rest a while before proceeding. They had told her at the station that it was only 4 miles to the house. The distance had seemed at least twice that long. She had eaten nothing since breakfast, and her wet skirts felt heavy as lead. The ground was damp, and she shivered in the sharp breeze that had arisen to scatter the clouds. The moon rode high above the last wrack of the storm, a silver ball rolling up an invisible path across the sky, chariot of the goddess Diana, virgin huntress of the Romans. Megan was better educated than most of her class. She knew her Latin and even a little Greek, but she had not learned of pagan gods from the nuns who had provided her formal schooling. Her father had been half a pagan himself, from his tales, and from the books he somehow managed to obtain. Wherever their travels led them, she had learned of Zeus and Apollo, grim Pluto and his stolen bride, and the other immortals of Olympus. Under the spell of the black rainbow, she remembered things she would rather have forgotten. The black and silver landscape was no place for bright Apollo or the harmless nymphs of grove and stream. But what a night for Diana the huntress, whose other persona is the witch goddess Hecate, and whose pack hunts human prey. Megan's skin prickled as she heard a frenzied, distant howling. Another sound, close at hand, made her glance fearfully over her shoulder. Surely it had been the soft patter of hooves. A harmless deer, or a ghostly stag, the horse of a human traveller, or a great black stallion spurred on by one of the grim, inhuman heroes so popular with the lady authors of the romances. Dark hair flowing back from a high, noble forehead, grave brown eyes fixed on the horizon. Megan gave herself a shake and returned to the real world of wet shoes, soggy garments, and aching limbs. The face of the imaginary rider had not been a product of fiction-induced fancy. It had a living model, and common sense told her to stop dreaming. Edmund Mandeville was her employer. He could never be anything else. She forced herself to stoop and pick up the heavy bag, which she had dropped when she reached the summit of the hill. She had more strength of character than her fragile form and delicate features suggested. Though the weight of the bag dragged painfully at her weary muscles, she was about to proceed when she saw something that made her breath catch in her throat. Her wild fancies had not been imagination after all, or else they had given solid form to something that should never have existed in the real world. On a great boulder beside the path perched a small, bowed hump of a figure. The moonlight glinted off a helmet of sleek, dark hair and showed the curve of a pale cheek. There was no dismissing the object as a natural formation. Megan's half-suppressed cry was heard. The dwarfish creature bounded up. Balancing atop the boulder, it turned to face the girl. In the bright moonlight, it lost its goblin air and took on a kindlier aspect, that of a brownie or dwarf, one of the little people who haunt the remote hills and are said on occasion to grant wishes to humans. It was muffled in a dark cloak, whose hood had fallen back to display human features. But it was of diminutive size, though, as Megan was to learn, not so tiny as her startled imagination had made it seem. At first its round, homely face mirrored her own shock. Wide eyes glinted palely. "Who are you?" The two voices blended in an impromptu duet. The little woman was the first to relax. Her mouth opened in a wide smile, and she broke out laughing. "You gave me such a start. I thought myself quite alone, and for a moment you had a look of... But I had better not tell you what peculiar notions were passing through my mind, or you will think me entirely mad instead of..."